Hey guys, so in this video I thought I would talk about my day trip to Augusta, raurica. Or at least I think that's how it's pronounced. So Augusta, raurica is this town near Basel where I'm currently located outside of Basel right now for this house sit. So it took about an hour to get to Augusta, raurica. So from where I'm sitting to Basel SBB, so like the main train station for Basel, and then from there about 10 minutes to Augusta, raurica, which I think it was like the fourth stop on the way to Frick. Took the train to that town, walked. You would think Augusta, raurica has been there for 2,000 years. You think they would have better sidewalks. Because I was kind of like amazed at how bad the sidewalks were. They would like cut off and you'd have to cross the road and there's like no crosswalk, or you'd just be walking and then it just stops and there's no sidewalk and you're just kind of like, what? Like this, it's been there 2,000 years and there's no proper sidewalks to get there. But I explored the amphitheater. It was kind of cool. They were setting up for a ballet show while I was there that morning, so I couldn't really walk around it because there was a lot of people like moving amps around and like running cords and wires, and I didn't want to get in their way. But I thought it was still pretty cool that after all this time that they're still putting shows on in this one building. So that was really cool to see. And they had a lot of information for like the archaeological side of the place, of the amphitheater. They had like videos and plaques explaining like everything. And after that, I headed over to the museum/Roman house exhibit. I was kind of nervous when I went to pay. My debit card didn't work, and I was just like, oh no. And she's like, do you have change? So I did have change. I think it was 8 Swiss francs to enter. So I paid. You have to put your bag in a locker. So I did that, and then it was kind of, the museum part was pretty small. I don't know why, but I thought it would have been a lot bigger. There's the one part of the exhibit, there's 2 main exhibits in the museum half. There is this archaeological exhibit where it kind of looks like an archaeological site where like people would have been doing research. So they had like the computers, like the tools, and then there was some bones, and on the walls I thought it was pretty interesting. They had like the profiles of the different researchers there, and then kind of what their research was on and exploring it and kind of like what relevance it would have. So I enjoyed that. And then the second exhibit was the kind of like the treasure room. So they found in the 1980s or 70s, I think, they were excavating, I think, to build something, and they stumbled upon like all of this buried silver. So like big plates and bowls, and some people thought it was trash and started throwing it away, and then someone was like, oh wait, this actually might be something important. So now it's all in the museum. So that was pretty cool. And then they had the plaques and kind of who owned them and how they might have owned them, and how like one plate could have been owned by 3 or 4 different generations, just because it's like worth so much in the detail and attention put into it, and how they were status symbols. And then from the museum, it's not very big, so it wouldn't take very long, probably like half an hour. And then you go to the Roman house, which is from the museum. You walk that way and then you just circle back and you go to the other side, which is the Roman house, which I really enjoy this. I've always liked Roman architecture and how Roman houses were set up with like the garden in the middle and then kind of life in the square around it. So they had it set up like a Roman house would have been 2,000 years ago, with like the living eating area, the bathrooms with the big baths, they had it set up, they had a setup of like a blacksmith, the cooking area, all of that. And then they had like a soundtrack playing, so it sounded like someone was hitting an anvil or someone was chopping something up to cook. And that was just really nice to see kind of how they brought the exhibit alive. That way there's like mannequins of like what the people would have looked like and worn then, and I really enjoyed that. And then after I was done in there, when got my coat and my bag out of the locker, you have to pay €1 for the, not €1, a franc for the locker, but you get it when you're done, when you return the key and everything. And then I went and walked to the gladiator kind of area. And that was kind of a long walk. I think it was about 15 minutes through the hills. There's signs, but it's like not clearly marked. And I was following this one couple because it wasn't very busy while I was there, but when you kind of get stuck behind one person, you're stuck behind them every single time. So like they would stop and read an exhibit, and then I would get to the exhibit and read it, and we were just kind of like doing this the whole way towards the Gladiator Theater. And so got to the Gladiator Theater. It was a really nice walk, and it kind of like the plaques explain things about gladiators and kind of like that kind of culture of the gladiator culture. And then you get to the amphitheater, and I was like expecting it to be pretty well intact because the theater where they were doing that ballet show that night was still pretty well intact, but it wasn't. There it was just like like one wall, like the wall, and that was it. It was under construction, so I think they were still like working on restoring it and everything, but that was kind of like a letdown. And then from there I walked down the hill, and then that takes you to where the livestock would have been kept all that time ago. And it was actually pretty cool. There is cows roaming around, and I always get excited when I see cows, and they're just kind of sitting around the ruins, and they were just sitting around the ruins, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like I could have touched them, they were so close, but I didn't because I didn't want to get bit by a cow. That made my whole day worth it. And then after that, I had already been there about 3 or 4 hours, so I was gonna head home, and Google Maps betrayed me a bit because it said if I go so I went from there down the hill across the bridge, and it said if I go left to the bus station, that'll take me right to Basel SBB, and then from there I can get the train back here to that house. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, that works. 20 minutes, and the Google Maps isn't changing. It's like, oh, it's only 8 more minutes, and 8 minutes go by of me walking in the straight line. It's like, oh, it's only 8 more minutes. I'm like, it took me straight to the highway, and there is no more sidewalk. So I'm like, oh, time to turn around. So I went back to the train station that I had came in on, got the train back to Basel SBB, and then back here. And it was overall a really good day. I think the highlight for me was the cows, but it was nice to learn about all the different archaeology, all the different history, and kind of all the things that went into it. And the exhibit was really nicely done. I have to say that since I've been in Switzerland, their museums have been very nice and enjoyable to see. All the plaques were in German, French, and English, so that way it kind of covers the bases for most people who are going to be visiting them, which I thought was really good. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a nice week. Bye!